Thank you very much. In order to form a more perfect union, we are gathered here today to educate, agitate, and reiterate the importance of confronting the racial injustices of the past and its legacies. We must confront the past in order to remove those barriers that exist today. When the Constitution was written, we were in as 3/5 compromise. That was removed with the 14th Amendment. And I encourage all of you to read the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is the longest amendments of all the 27 that we have, and it addresses some very important things, like due process, the Bill of Rights, citizenship, and apportionment. Before the 14th Amendment in 1868, the Bill of Rights was just federal legislation. It did not apply to the states. And so with the 14th Amendment, the first 10 amendments were added to apply to the states. The 15th Amendment in 1870 gave African Americans the right to vote. In 1957, President Eisenhower created the Civil Rights Division within the Attorney General's office. Keep in mind that in 1870, the Attorney General's office was set up to enforce African American voting. So in 1957, when Eisenhower signed that Civil Rights Act, he also created the Commission on Civil Rights. And then in 1960, there was another Civil Rights Act giving the Attorney General's office the power to go into different states and inspect the polls. And with that, there was lots of rebellion that came in the South. June the 12th, 1963, Medgar Evers was gunned down in his driveway early in the morning, while his children watched him crawl, bleeding, as he crawled to his home, shot in the back because he was out registering individuals to vote. June the 21st, 1964, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, Michael Swarner was murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi, just because they were attempting to help us get the right to vote. In 1965, February the 26th, a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Lee Jackson was murdered. He was murdered while he was trying to defend his mother and his grandfather from the Alabama State Troopers who was attacking them. And they shot and killed him. And that was the first march that took place. That gave momentum to the freedom fighters to take that march again, and they did on March 7th, and we gained the right to vote. What is happening right now is that we had provisions in the 1965 Voters' Rights Act. It was called the pre-clearance provision. There was 13 states that had numerous infractions that had to be cleared for any changes that they made to their voting procedures. And so as a result of that, I believe it was 2014, the Supreme Court removed that provision, that pre-clearance provision. Keep in mind, Alaska was one of those 13 states that was a part of that clearance. And so today, as we come to encourage everyone, and if you have a pastor, we want you to ask your pastor to contact the U.S. Senator. You should do it, but ask those pastors. We want all pastors on the roll, that they went out and stood up for the people, because voting is the key to democracy. If you don't have the vote, you don't have any say-so. And so we say to you today, and I say to those legislators that are standing over there, we need a bill in the Alaska State Legislature. And this bill should expand the time that people have to vote. 9 to 5 is not a good time to vote. We need a bill to say that you can vote at least from 8 to 9 or 9 to 9. And also we need a bill that will expand the voting places. We don't have enough places for people to go and vote. Some people don't have cars. So how can they drive downtown to vote? So we need a bill from the legislature to make those changes. And I will end with this. Those individuals that gave their lives for us to have the right to vote, let's not let their sacrifice be in vain.